But speaking of internal enemies, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a lot of them, particularly in the Welsh Parliament as well, or the Welsh Senedd, if you will. Two of them in this instance came up on my feed because of the Senedd waste guys. Llanthwyck Major Councillor Gwyn John has slammed constituents' migrant accommodation objections. So this is the video of that, ladies and gentlemen. He's risked the wrath of his residents after slamming their objections to migrant accommodation built just meters from their homes. If you wonder how pervasive that this ideology and this ideological bent is, ladies and gentlemen, well, here you go.
Llanthwyck Major councillors for the last 3 years have had huge problems from residents basically objecting to the Eagleswell Road temporary accommodation. Well, we stuck out against it because it was our view to support. As I've said already, this is absolutely disgraceful. And, you know, a lot of people complained about trouble at Eagleswell since that site at Hale Croeso opened. And I think that, you know, that name sums it all up, Hale Croeso. And I'm delighted to associate myself with them, as all the Llanthwyck members are on the Vale Council.
I hope it's worth it. I hope it's worth it because we won't forget it. And we only need to look across the border at our friends in England, right? Whom, again, I love when it comes around to Six Nations time to tell them to shove the chariots up their arse, right? I love it. I love it. I love the little things that we can have where we have these rivalries, especially around something. All right, I might just check my phone. Something as relatively meaningless as rugby and sport and stuff like that, right? And we can have a good laugh over that, and we can have little rivalries and stuff like that. Can't have those little rivalries, ladies and gentlemen, for all a Muslim country, and we're speaking Arabic, and we're not actually here as people anymore because we've all been colonized and ethnically cleansed off of our own homeland, right? You have one here, Steve McGranagan, I hope I'm saying that right, says the development has been built too close to his home. And you have another resident, Dave Thomas, says the development is overbearing with the homes looking into his garden. Just imagine he might, Dave Thomas seems to be a little bit more on the older side here, might not have young children, but likely, potentially has grandchildren, which you would be worried about, especially when we're seeing in Epping, for example, again, where one of these lovely attendees, one of these lovely beneficiaries of, the migrant hotels did something heinous to a young girl. People are seeing this. People can see what's going on. People can see the reality for what it is. They're not going to be gaslit by their representatives anymore. They're not going to forget it when it comes down to election season. And this is why they're angry. It's why the political establishment that we have on this multicultural bent with this having had decades of this weird liberal multicultural diversity project, right? So out of touch with how people are rejecting it. The only options they have to resort to then are labels, are, isms and phobes and all of this stuff, right? They're not working anymore. That's why they hate it. That's why they're screeching out more and more like banshees, because they know that they're losing. And like the devil, when he gets cast back down into hell, they're going to try and grab onto anything that they possibly can to bring as many people down and to bring their own country down with them. They'll happily burn our countries to the ground if they can rule over the ashes, ladies and gentlemen. He's not alone, however. Jane Norman voted to make the area a quote-unquote county of sanctuary. When two councillors proposed the policy should end, Norman said they should apologise. No surprise, ladies and gentlemen, the curse of the female Liberal politician, like the bloody curse of the bloody Black Pearl, returns in force.
This motion calls for us to apologise for voting to designate the Vale of Glamorgan as a county of sanctuary. Instead of asking us to apologise to them, the two councillors who brought this motion should be apologising to us. Thank you.
Here's your apology. I know that's immature, ladies and gentlemen. I've been watching a lot of Stephen Crowder. My matureness has gone down quite a bit, but I do love this show. It's very, very funny. There's your apology, or maybe you prefer this one. Maybe you prefer that one. I don't know. Leave your favourite forms of apology in the comments or whatever as well. If you've watched this far, then you must be an avid watcher of the show. You must be at least somewhat engaged by what I have to say. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.